The planet was quiet, covered in dust and rocks. A fierce battle had just taken place. The sky was dark with smoke, and the air was filled with silence. In a small, hidden place among the rocks, a young alien girl named Lyra lay injured. Her green skin was marked with cuts and bruises, and her bright blue eyes were closed. She felt weak and alone. Lyra was part of a group that had come to fight for their planet. They were brave and strong, but today was different. During the fight, she had been hurt badly. As her friends tried to escape, they left her behind, thinking she would not survive. They thought she was dead. But Lyra was alive, though barely. She had lost a lot of blood and felt the coldness of the planet creeping into her bones. Lyra opened her eyes slowly. The world around her was blurry. She tried to move but felt pain shoot through her body. Panic filled her heart. She was afraid. Am I going to die here? She thought. The thought made her want to cry, but she had no strength left for tears. As she lay there, the sounds of the battle faded away, replaced by the whisper of the wind. Suddenly, she heard a different sound. It was the low hum of an engine. A spaceship. Her heart raced. Maybe someone is coming to help, she thought. Hope flickered inside her, but fear still gripped her. Would they be friends or foes? The spaceship landed not far from where she lay. The ground shook slightly, and dust flew into the air. Lyra tried to move again, but her body refused to listen. She could only watch as the door of the ship opened. A figure stepped out. It was a human. He had short, brown hair and wore a simple suit. He looked around, then began to walk toward her. Lyra's heart raced even faster. Would he help her, or would he see her as an enemy? The human approached, and Lyra could see his face more clearly. His blue eyes were kind, and his expression was filled with concern. He knelt down beside her, looking at her injuries. "Oh no, what happened to you?" he said softly. His voice was gentle, like a warm breeze. Lyra was terrified. She wanted to speak, to tell him she needed help, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she just stared at him, wide-eyed and afraid. She thought about her people, how they had left her. Would this human do the same? The human reached out a hand slowly, as if he were approaching a wild animal. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, his voice soothing. "I'm here to help." He pulled a small device from his pocket and waved it over her wounds. A soft light glowed from it, and Lyra felt a strange warmth wash over her. "What is that?" she thought, both amazed and frightened. The pain began to lessen. The human looked relieved as he worked, focusing on her injuries. "Stay still," he instructed gently. "You'll be okay." Lyra wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust this stranger, but her fear was strong. She had never met a human before. She had heard stories of their strength and bravery, but she had also heard tales of their cruelty. Could he really be different? After a few minutes, the human finished with the device. "You're lucky I found you," he said with a small smile. "Your wounds are serious, but I think you'll survive." His smile was warm, and for the first time, Lyra felt a tiny spark of hope. "Who are you?" she managed to whisper. The words were hard to say, but they escaped her lips. The human paused for a moment, surprised that she could speak. "My name is Alex," he replied. "I'm a medic. I travel to different planets to help those in need. I didn't expect to find someone like you here." He looked at her with genuine interest. "What's your name?" "Lyra," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. It felt strange to share her name with someone she had just met, but something about Alex made her feel safe. "Lyra," he repeated, testing the name on his tongue. "You're very brave, Lyra. You fought hard to survive." He reached out again, this time to touch her arm gently. "I'm going to take you to my ship. You'll be safe there." Lyra hesitated, her instincts screaming at her to be careful. What if he's lying? She thought. But the truth was, she was too weak to fight anymore. The thought of staying alone on this planet, where her own kind had abandoned her, was terrifying. "Okay," she said softly, her voice shaking. Alex helped her to sit up, supporting her weight as she struggled. Together, they made their way to the spaceship. As they walked, Lyra looked up at the sky. It was still dark, but she felt a small light of hope beginning to grow inside her. Maybe, just maybe, she had found a friend in this strange human. As they reached the ship, Alex helped her inside, and she knew her journey was only just beginning. The human's arrival. Alex stepped into his spaceship, helping Lyra inside. The door closed behind them with a soft hiss. The inside was warm and bright, filled with buttons and screens that lit up in various colors. Lyra had never seen anything like it. She looked around, her eyes wide with wonder and fear. "Sit here," Alex said, guiding her to a comfortable seat. He secured her with a soft strap so she wouldn't fall. "You'll be safe here, I promise." His voice was calm, and it made Lyra feel a little better. She had been so scared just moments before, but now there was a tiny spark of hope in her heart. As Alex moved around the ship, he started pressing buttons and flipping switches. The ship hummed to life, and Lyra felt a gentle vibration beneath her. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice still shaky. "I'm getting us out of here," Alex replied, glancing back at her with a reassuring smile. "This ship can fly fast, and I know a safe place where we can go." He worked quickly, focused on his task, but he always made sure to check on her. Lyra watched as he worked. She noticed the way his fingers moved with confidence. He was skilled and knew what he was doing. "Where are we going?" she asked, curious despite her fear. "Somewhere safe," he answered, his face serious. "I have a base where I can help you heal properly. There will be food and care, and you can rest." The thought of being safe and cared for made Lyra feel warm inside, but she still worried about what would happen next. As the ship lifted off the ground, Lyra felt a rush of excitement mixed with fear. The view outside changed quickly. The barren landscape of the planet shrank beneath them, becoming a small dot in the vastness of space. Stars twinkled all around, and she felt a strange sense of freedom. "Wow," she whispered, amazed by the beauty of the stars. "It's so different." Alex smiled, happy to see her interest. "Space is incredible, isn't it? There are so many worlds out there, and each one has its own story." He paused, looking at her. "What about your world, Lyra? What is it like?" Lyra took a deep breath, remembering her home. "My planet is green and full of life. There are big trees and rivers. We have cities made of beautiful stones. It used to be peaceful, until the war." Her voice trailed off, sadness filling her heart. She thought about her friends who had fought, and those who had left her behind. "I'm sorry," Alex said softly. "No one should have to go through that." He looked at her with kindness in his eyes, making her feel understood. "You're safe now. You're with me." For the first time, Lyra believed him. She felt a bond forming between them, even though they were from different worlds. "Thank you for saving me," she said quietly, her voice full of sincerity. "Of course," Alex replied, his face brightening with a smile. "That's what friends do." The ship continued to soar through space. Alex kept talking to her, asking questions and sharing stories. He told her about Earth, his home, and what life was like there. Lyra listened closely, fascinated by his words. She learned about the animals, the plants, and the many different people. In turn, Lyra shared her own stories. She told him about her family, her friends, and the beautiful places on her planet. She spoke of the joy they once had and how it all changed with the war. As they talked, Lyra felt her fears melting away. Alex was not just a human. He was a kind person who cared. She realized that he was trying to understand her and her world, just as she was trying to understand his. After a while, Alex turned a dial, and the ship began to slow down. "We're almost there," he said, excitement in his voice. "Get ready." Lyra's heart raced. She wondered what this new place would be like. Would it be safe? Would she find more humans? The ship finally landed gently on a platform that looked like it was made of shiny metal. Alex turned off the engines and looked at her with a smile. "Welcome to my base." Lyra took a deep breath as the door opened. Bright lights greeted her, and she could see people moving around. They all looked busy but friendly. Alex helped her stand, and together they stepped out of the ship. "Everyone, this is Lyra," Alex announced proudly. "She needs our help." The people turned to look at her, and Lyra felt nervous. But instead of fear, she saw smiles. One woman stepped forward, her long hair flowing. "Hi, Lyra. I'm Sarah. We're so glad you're here. Let's get you something to eat and take care of you." Lyra felt warmth spread through her. For the first time since she was left behind, she felt like she belonged. Alex stood beside her, and she realized she was not alone anymore. As they walked together into the base, Lyra knew her life was about to change. She had been saved by a human, and she felt a glimmer of hope for her future. The rescue. Lyra sat in the comfortable chair in Alex's spaceship, feeling both nervous and curious. The bright lights around her were different from anything she had ever seen. The ship was filled with strange sounds and the smell of metal and something sweet. It was a big change from the dusty planet she had been abandoned on. Alex walked around the ship, checking different screens and buttons. Lyra watched him, fascinated by how he moved with confidence. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice still soft. "I'm checking the ship's systems," Alex replied, glancing back at her. "I want to make sure everything is working properly before we take off. You'll be safe here, Lyra. I promise." His words were reassuring, and for the first time, she believed she could trust him completely. After a few minutes, Alex finished his checks. He returned to her side and knelt down, looking into her eyes. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Are you hurt anywhere else?" Lyra thought for a moment. "I feel better, I think, but I am still scared." She looked down at her hands, feeling the weight of her past and the fear of her future. "That's okay," Alex said gently. "It's normal to feel scared after everything you've been through. But I'm here to help you." He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, and Lyra felt a little more at ease. Suddenly, the ship began to shake slightly. Alex's expression changed to one of focus. "We need to move quickly. There might be danger nearby," he said, his voice serious. "Hold on tight." Before Lyra could respond, Alex pressed buttons on the control panel, and the ship's engines roared to life. The ground beneath them rumbled as the ship lifted off the platform. Lyra gripped the seat tightly, her heart racing. She felt excitement mixed with fear. As they soared into the sky, Alex glanced at her. "Look," he said, pointing out the window. "You can see the stars." Lyra turned her head and gasped. The view was breathtaking. Stars twinkled like diamonds against the dark canvas of space. For a moment, she forgot her fear and just enjoyed the beauty around her. But then the ship's alarms blared, pulling her back to reality. Alex's face turned serious again. "We have company," he said, focusing on the controls. "I'll do my best to lose them." Lyra's heart sank. She had only just escaped danger, and now it seemed to be following her. Outside the window, she saw several small ships approaching quickly. They were fast and sleek, their engines glowing brightly. "Who are they?" she asked, panic rising in her voice. "They are from your planet," Alex replied, determination in his eyes. "They want to capture you. They think you have important information." He turned to her, his expression firm. "But I won't let them take you." Lyra felt fear wash over her. "What if they catch us?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "They won't," Alex assured her. "Just trust me. I know how to handle this." He adjusted the controls, making the ship turn sharply. They weaved through the stars. The enemy ships closed behind. The chase was intense. The enemy ships fired their weapons, bright flashes lighting up the darkness. Alex expertly dodged their shots, turning the ship left and right. Lyra held on tightly, her heart racing with every twist and turn. She had never experienced anything like this before. "Hold on," Alex shouted as he made a sudden dive, the ship plunging toward a nearby asteroid field. Lyra's stomach dropped as they flew closer to the large rocks. It was risky, but Alex knew it was their best chance to escape. "Why are we going here?" she asked, fear evident in her voice. "If we can hide among the asteroids, they might lose us," he explained. "Stay low and keep quiet." They entered the asteroid field, the ship moving quickly among the rocks. The enemy ships followed closely, but the asteroids created chaos. Some ships collided with the rocks, their bright lights blinking out as they were destroyed. Lyra watched in awe and fear as the scene unfolded. "Is this really happening?" she thought. Her heart pounded in her chest, and she realized she was now part of an adventure. Suddenly, they heard a loud crash. One of the enemy ships had hit an asteroid, sending debris flying everywhere. "We have to move faster," Alex shouted, gripping the controls tightly. Just as Lyra thought they might escape, another enemy ship appeared right in front of them. Alex swerved, but the ship fired its weapons. The blast shook their ship, and Lyra gasped. "Alex, we can't give up," he yelled, his eyes focused on the controls. "I need you to help me." "How can I help?" she asked, feeling helpless. "Use your abilities," he shouted. "If you can do something special, now is the time." Lyra remembered her training back on her planet. She had powers she had never fully understood, but in that moment, she felt a surge of energy. She took a deep breath and concentrated. With a wave of her hand, she unleashed a bright light toward the enemy ship. The light exploded in a flash, blinding the enemy pilots. They lost control, and the ship crashed into another asteroid. "Nice job, Lyra," Alex cheered, his eyes shining with excitement. "You did it." Encouraged by her success, Lyra felt more powerful than ever. They continued to navigate through the asteroid field, dodging debris and enemy fire. With each passing moment, she felt more in control. Finally, the remaining enemy ships gave up the chase. They turned and flew away, their lights fading into the distance. Alex let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. "We did it. You were amazing, Lyra." Lyra smiled, feeling a rush of pride. She had helped them escape, and for the first time since the battle, she felt strong. "Thank you for believing in me," she said, her voice filled with joy. Alex grinned at her, his face full of admiration. "We make a great team," he said. "Now let's get you to safety." As they continued through the stars, Lyra felt a new sense of hope. She had been rescued by a human, and together, they had faced danger. Now she was ready for whatever came next. Building trust, the ship flew steadily through the starry sky, leaving behind the danger of the asteroid field. Lyra sat beside Alex, feeling a mix of relief and excitement. They had escaped the enemy ships, and for the first time since she had been hurt, she felt a sense of safety. "Where are we going now?" Lyra asked, glancing at the control panel. The lights flickered softly, casting a warm glow around them. "We're heading to a safe planet where I have a small base," Alex replied, his fingers dancing over the controls. "It's peaceful there, and you can rest and recover." Lyra nodded, but her mind was still racing. She had so many questions. Will we be safe there? Will anyone come after us? Alex turned to her, his expression serious but reassuring. "I will do everything I can to protect you. Trust me, Lyra. You're safe with me." His words resonated with her. She wanted to believe him completely. As they continued to fly, Lyra looked out at the stars. They seemed to stretch on forever, like a beautiful blanket. For the first time in a long while, she felt hope, but there was still a part of her that was scared. She had been abandoned by her own kind, and was now on a strange ship with a human. Would she ever truly be safe? After a while, Alex turned to her and smiled. Let's get to know each other better. It will help us both. He leaned back in his seat, making himself comfortable. Tell me more about your home. What is it like? Lyra took a deep breath, grateful for the chance to share her story. My planet is called Zenara. It is full of lush forests and rivers. The colors are vibrant, with plants that can glow at night. We have cities made of crystal that sparkle in the sun. She paused, thinking about the beauty of her home and the happiness it once brought her. That sounds amazing, Alex said, his eyes wide with wonder. I've never seen a place like that. What do you do there? We have many traditions, Lyra explained. We celebrate the changing of seasons with festivals. We dance and sing, and everyone comes together. It is a time of joy. Her voice grew soft as she remembered the laughter and happiness of those days. But now, everything has changed. I'm sorry, Lyra, Alex said gently. I can't imagine how hard that must be for you, but you are not alone anymore. Lyra looked at him, feeling grateful for his support. Thank you, Alex. It means a lot to me. She wanted to share more about her life, but a wave of sadness washed over her as she thought about her friends and family. They had been left behind, and she wondered if she would ever see them again. Tell me about your family, Alex encouraged, noticing her change in mood. Do you have brothers or sisters? Lyra nodded slowly. I have a younger brother named Kian. He is brave and funny. He always makes me laugh. I also have my parents, who are strong leaders in our community. A smile crossed her face as she thought of Kian's playful spirit. We used to go on adventures together, exploring the forests. What happened to them? Alex asked softly, sensing her pain. Lyra took a deep breath, trying to hold back her tears. They were captured during the war. I don't know if they are safe or if they are gone. Her voice trembled as she spoke. I was afraid I would never see them again. Alex reached over and placed a comforting hand on her arm. I'm so sorry, Lyra. I can't promise that everything will be okay, but I will help you find them. You deserve to be reunited with your family. Lyra looked at him, surprised. You would do that for me? Of course. Alex replied, his tone firm. You are my friend, and friends help each other. I know it's hard to trust me right now, but I will prove to you that I care. Lyra felt warmth spread through her heart. She wanted to trust him, but after everything she had experienced, it was difficult. I hope you're right, she said softly. As the ship flew on, they began to develop a bond. They shared stories and laughter, slowly building trust. Alex told her about his adventures on different planets, and Lyra shared tales of her home and her people. They learned from each other, discovering similarities and differences that made their connection stronger. After a few hours, the ship began to descend toward a beautiful planet. This is it, Alex announced, excitement in his voice. Welcome to Valora. Lyra looked out the window, her eyes wide with wonder. The planet was green and blue, with rolling hills and sparkling rivers. The sky was a bright shade of blue, and fluffy white clouds floated lazily by. It's beautiful, she exclaimed, feeling a sense of awe. Alex landed the ship gently on a grassy field. This is my base, he said as they stepped out. The area was filled with small buildings and gardens. It looked peaceful, a stark contrast to the chaos she had left behind. As they walked around, Lyra felt a sense of belonging. The people she saw were friendly, waving at her and smiling. They welcomed her with open arms, and she felt warmth in their kindness. See, you are safe here, Alex said, noticing her reaction. We will take good care of you. Lyra smiled back, feeling hope blooming inside her. She was no longer alone, and she had found a friend in Alex. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. With each passing moment, her trust in him grew stronger. As they explored the base, Lyra realized that this was the beginning of a new life. She could heal, learn, and perhaps one day find her family again. With Alex by her side, she felt ready to face anything. The pursuit. Lyra felt a sense of peace as she walked through the gardens of Valora. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of blooming flowers. It was a stark contrast to the danger she had faced just days before. She and Alex had spent the morning exploring the base, meeting friendly people, and learning about their customs. But in the back of her mind, a worry lingered. The enemy who had captured her before would not give up easily. What if they came looking for her here? The thought made her shiver. "Are you okay?" Alex asked, noticing the change in her expression. He had been showing her a colorful flower that changed color in the sunlight. Lyra nodded slowly. "I'm just thinking about what happened before. I'm scared they will find me here." Alex's face turned serious. "I understand, but you are safe with me, and I will do everything I can to protect you." Just then, an alarm rang out, echoing through the base. The joyful atmosphere turned tense as people began to move quickly, their faces filled with worry. "What's happening?" Lyra asked, her heart racing. "There's trouble," Alex replied, his voice steady but urgent. "We need to get to the control room. They might have found us." Without wasting any time, Alex led Lyra through the base, his pace quickening. They ran past people who were rushing to their stations, preparing for an emergency. The atmosphere changed from calm to chaotic in seconds. When they reached the control room, Alex jumped into a chair, his fingers flying over the controls. The screen showed images of the sky, and Lyra's heart sank when she saw several ships approaching. They were the same kind that had chased them before. "They found us," she gasped. "Yes," Alex said, focusing on the screens. "They are coming fast. We have to warn everyone and prepare to defend ourselves." He turned to Lyra. "Can you help me? We need to keep them from landing here." Lyra nodded, determination filling her heart. "What do I need to do?" "Use your powers. If you can create a shield or something to slow them down, it will give us time to prepare," he instructed, his voice calm despite the situation. Lyra felt a rush of energy. She remembered the power she had used in the asteroid field. She closed her eyes and focused, imagining a protective barrier surrounding the base. "I can do this," she thought, her hands glowing softly. "Now," Alex shouted, and she opened her eyes. With a wave of her hands, she unleashed a bright light that expanded into a shimmering shield around the base. It sparkled in the sunlight, creating a barrier that glowed like a rainbow. Alex stared in awe. "That's amazing. Keep it steady." Lyra focused hard, feeling the strain in her energy. The ships were getting closer, and she could sense their intent. They wanted to capture her again. She would not let that happen. The enemy ships approached, their weapons ready. "They are going to fire," Alex warned, his voice filled with urgency. "Get ready." Lyra felt the fear rising in her chest. What if my shield doesn't hold? She wondered, but she knew she had to believe in herself. The first blast came, hitting the shield with a loud bang. Lyra felt the impact but held her ground, focusing all her energy. The shield shimmered and rippled, absorbing the blast. "It's working," she shouted, a spark of hope igniting inside her. Alex's fingers danced over the controls, preparing the defense systems. "We need to return fire," he said, glancing at her. "Can you keep the shield up while I fire back?" "I'll try," Lyra replied, determination in her voice. She concentrated harder, feeling the weight of her responsibility. The shield flickered but remained intact, glowing brightly against the dark ships. Alex fired back, his weapons lighting up the sky. The enemy ships returned fire, and the air was filled with explosions and bright flashes of light. It was a fierce battle, but Lyra remained focused, keeping her shield strong. With each blast, she felt her energy waning. "I can't hold it much longer," she cried out, her breath coming in short gasps. "You can do this, Lyra, just a little longer." Alex encouraged her, his eyes fierce with determination. The enemy ships began to circle, trying to find a weakness in their defenses. Lyra could feel their intent, and she pushed her energy to the limit. The shield shimmered, but it held strong, protecting the base and everyone inside. Suddenly, one of the enemy ships broke formation and headed straight for them. "They're trying to land," Alex shouted, urgency in his voice. "We have to stop them." Lyra knew this was their moment. She gathered all her strength, focusing on the ship's path. "I can't let them land," she thought. With a fierce shout, she released a powerful blast of energy from the shield, aiming directly at the approaching ship. The blast hit the ship, causing it to spiral out of control. The pilot struggled to regain control, but it was too late. The ship crashed into the ground, exploding in a fiery display. Lyra gasped, surprised by her own power. "Did I really do that?" she wondered, feeling both amazed and frightened. "Yes, you stopped them," Alex shouted, a wide grin on his face. "You are incredible, Lyra." The remaining enemy ships hesitated, seeing the destruction. They circled overhead, unsure of their next move. "Now is our chance," Alex said. "Let's take out their remaining ships before they regroup." With renewed determination, Lyra focused on the shield, making it stronger as Alex fired back at the other ships. They worked together, firing blasts that lit up the sky. One by one, the enemy ships began to fall, retreating in defeat. As the last ship turned and fled, Lyra collapsed into a chair, exhausted but exhilarated. "We did it," she exclaimed, a mixture of joy and relief flooding her. Alex grinned, running over to her. "You were amazing, Lyra. I knew you had it in you." He pulled her into a quick hug, and she felt warmth spread through her chest. Lyra smiled back, feeling the bond grow stronger between them. She had faced danger, and with Alex by her side, she had found her strength. As the base returned to calm, Lyra realized that she had found a home among these people. With Alex, she could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would protect each other and find a way to reunite her with her family. The showdown. The calm after the battle was short-lived. As the sun began to set over Valora, the peaceful skies darkened, and a new danger loomed. Lyra and Alex had barely caught their breath when alarms blared again, cutting through the quiet of the base. "Not again," Alex exclaimed, rushing to the control room. Lyra followed closely behind, her heart pounding. When they entered, the screen showed multiple enemy ships approaching. "They're back," Alex shouted, frustration evident in his voice. "They must have regrouped after we took out the first wave." Lyra's stomach twisted with fear. "How many are there?" she asked, her voice shaking. Alex focused on the screen, counting quickly. "At least 6 ships. They're coming in fast." He turned to her, his expression serious. "We need to prepare for another fight. But this time, we have to be smarter." Lyra nodded, determination taking over her fear. "What do we do?" "We can't rely only on your shield this time," Alex said, strategizing quickly. "We need a plan. I'll take the control room and coordinate our defense. You can use your powers to create barriers around key areas of the base. We need to protect the people here." Lyra felt a surge of confidence. "I can do that," she replied. "I'll make sure everyone is safe." They quickly divided their tasks. Lyra moved to the outer areas of the base, preparing to create barriers. She concentrated on her powers, feeling the energy build inside her. She had to protect her new home. As she worked, she could hear the sounds of battle erupting nearby. Blasts filled the air, and the ground shook as the enemy ships fired at the base. Lyra focused on the fear in her heart, channeling it into strength. She knew she had to succeed. With a wave of her hand, she created a strong barrier around the main entrance of the base. The shimmering wall glowed bright, absorbing the blasts aimed at it. "This will hold them back," she thought, feeling proud of her creation. Meanwhile, Alex was hard at work in the control room, using the computers to track the enemy's movements. They are trying to break through the defenses, he called out. We need to reinforce the shield around the central area. Lyra quickly shifted her focus, expanding her barrier to cover more ground. The energy flowed through her, and she felt a sense of connection with the land around her. The plants and soil seemed to respond to her, strengthening her powers. As the enemy ships drew closer, Alex shouted commands to the defenders. Get ready. We need to hold them off. He fired back at the ships, using everything he had. The air was thick with tension and noise as the two sides clashed. Suddenly, one of the enemy ships broke away from the others and headed straight for the control room. They're targeting us, Alex yelled. Lyra, can you do something about that? Lyra closed her eyes, visualizing the ship crashing into their control center. I can try, she shouted back, gathering all her strength. She focused on the incoming threat, feeling the energy surge within her. With a powerful wave of her hand, she unleashed a shockwave of energy toward the ship. The wave collided with the ship, causing it to veer off course. It spiraled into the air, but the pilot quickly regained control. They're coming back, Alex warned, urgency in his voice. Realizing the enemy was not backing down, Lyra felt a rush of fear. I won't let them hurt anyone, she promised herself. With a fierce shout, she summoned her powers, creating a series of barriers that encircled the control room. The ship returned, firing its weapons. Lyra's barriers lit up as they absorbed the blasts, but she could feel her energy waning. I need to hold on, she thought, pushing through the fatigue. Alex continued to fire at the enemy, his determination unwavering. We can't give up. We are stronger together. The battle raged on, with explosions ringing out and the ground shaking beneath them. Lyra focused harder, feeling the weight of her responsibility. She envisioned the people of Valora, their faces filled with hope. She would not let them down. Just when it seemed like the enemy ship would break through, Lyra gathered the last of her strength. This ends now, she shouted, releasing a powerful blast of energy that collided with the enemy ship. The force sent it tumbling, smoke trailing behind it. Nice shot, Alex cheered, grinning at her. Keep it up. But just as Lyra felt a moment of triumph, a larger enemy ship appeared above them. It was bigger and more powerful than the others, and it loomed like a dark cloud over the base. They're sending in reinforcements, Alex said, panic creeping into his voice. We need to get everyone to safety. Lyra glanced around, seeing the defenders preparing for the worst. I can't hold the barriers forever, she said, exhaustion creeping into her voice. What do we do? Listen to me, Alex said firmly. You have to believe in yourself. We can't let them win. I'll coordinate our attack from here, and you need to keep focusing on your shield. We can push them back. With a deep breath, Lyra nodded, feeling the fire of determination ignite within her. I won't let you down. As the larger ship began to fire, Lyra threw up the strongest barrier she could muster. The energy crackled around her as she felt her powers surge. The impact of the blasts shook her to her core, but she held firm, focusing on her connection to the land. The defenders rallied around Alex, firing back at the enemy ships. Lyra could hear their shouts of encouragement, fueling her strength. We're all in this together, she thought, feeling a sense of unity. The battle intensified, and Lyra's energy began to fade. But she pushed through the fatigue, knowing that their safety depended on her. I can do this, she whispered to herself, determined to protect her new friends. As the showdown reached its peak, the people of Valora fought bravely alongside Alex and Lyra. Together, they pushed back against the enemy, refusing to back down. In that moment, Lyra realized that she had found her place. She was not just a lost girl, she was a warrior, fighting for her new home. With Alex by her side, she felt strong, and they would face whatever came next together. New beginnings. The dust began to settle after the fierce battle, and the sun rose over Valora, casting a golden glow across the base. Lyra stood on the balcony of the control room, watching the skies with a mixture of relief and hope. The last enemy ship had fled, and the defenders had successfully protected their home. "Can you believe we did it?" Alex said, joining her at the railing. He leaned against it, a proud smile on his face. "We fought them off together." Lyra turned to him, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." "Of course," Alex replied. "You are amazing, Lyra. You are stronger than you think." As they looked out over the base, they saw people beginning to gather. The defenders were tired but relieved, celebrating their victory. Friends hugged each other, laughter and cheers filling the air. "Let's go join them," Alex suggested, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Lyra nodded, and together they made their way down to the gathering crowd. As they walked, people began to notice them, and smiles broke out. "Lyra," Alex called a tall woman with dark hair. It was Zora, one of the base leaders. She rushed over, her face shining with joy. "You two were incredible. We couldn't have done this without you." Lyra felt a wave of pride wash over her. "Thank you. But everyone worked together. We all did this." Zara nodded. "True, but your powers were key. You turned the tide of the battle. Without you, we might have lost everything." Alex chimed in. Lyra was amazing. She held up those barriers like a pro. The crowd cheered, and Lyra's cheeks flushed with warmth. She had never felt so appreciated. As the celebration continued, Lyra took a moment to look around. The base was alive with energy and happiness. She realized that she had found a place where she belonged. After the cheers died down, Zara took center stage. "Today, we celebrate our victory. We faced a great threat and came together as one. Thanks to our brave defenders and our new friend Lyra, we have defended our home." More cheers erupted, and Lyra felt her heart swell with happiness. She was no longer just a wounded alien girl. She was part of a community. As the festivities began, people gathered to share stories and laughter. Lyra felt a sense of belonging she had never known before. She shared her own story of being rescued by Alex, and everyone listened intently. Later, as the sun dipped lower in the sky, Alex took Lyra aside. "There's something I want to show you," he said, his eyes twinkling with excitement. "What is it?" Lyra asked, curious. "Follow me," he said, leading her away from the crowd and toward the outskirts of the base. They walked through beautiful gardens filled with colorful flowers and tall trees, the scent of nature filling the air. Finally, they reached a small hill that overlooked the entire base. The view was breathtaking. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange, pink, and purple. "Wow," Lyra gasped, taking it all in. "It's beautiful." Alex smiled, watching her reaction. "I thought you'd like it. This is my favorite spot. It makes me feel hopeful." Lyra turned to him, her heart racing. "Thank you for bringing me here. I feel so lucky to have found you in this place." Alex's expression turned serious. "I want you to know that you are not alone anymore. You have people who care about you, and I'll always be here for you." Lyra felt a wave of warmth at his words. "And I will always be here for you too. Alex, you saved my life. You believed in me when no one else did." They stood together, the warm breeze swirling around them. In that moment, everything felt right. They had faced darkness together and emerged stronger. As the last rays of sunlight disappeared, Lyra took a deep breath. "What happens now?" she asked, looking up at the stars beginning to twinkle above. Alex looked thoughtful. "Now we build a future. We need to make sure the base is safe and prepare for any threats that might come again. But we also need to rebuild, to create a place where everyone feels secure and happy." Lyra nodded, feeling a new sense of purpose. "I want to help. I want to learn more about this place and how I can protect it." "I think you'll be a great protector," Alex said, a smile breaking across his face. You have the heart of a warrior, Lyra. And with your powers, we can make sure Valora stays safe." Lyra felt a surge of determination. She had found her place in this world, and she was ready to fight for it. "Together, we can do anything," she said confidently. As they stood on the hill, looking out over the base, they knew that this was only the beginning. They had faced danger, and together, they had triumphed. Now, they would work hand in hand to create a future filled with hope and new beginnings. With the stars shining brightly above them, Lyra felt her spirit lift. She was not just an alien girl left for dead. She was a vital part of a vibrant community, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. And as the first stars twinkled in the sky, she smiled, knowing that new adventures awaited.